Hello, everybody. This is DFS Chan coming to you here live on January 13th to talk about tomorrow's 11 a.m. Eastern LEC League of Legends DFS slate. Um, Thanks for watching yesterday's video. If you did, I did not know that I was supposed to click on something to share my screen. Uh, it's a little different to do it live versus the way that I used to do by recording it and posting it afterward. So yeah, excuse my mistake there, but moving forward, I'm sure it will be fixed. So hopefully that you guys can see my screen right now. So yeah, let's dive in. We have another 5-game LEC slate. We have LEC that locks at 11 a.m. Eastern Time. We had a pretty good day today for the first League of Legends DFS slate. It's unfortunate the prize pool has gotten a little bit smaller for tomorrow morning slate because of NFL Sunday and all that. But I'm sure for Monday and moving forward, we have LCK and then LPL and then LCS coming back all next week or in the next few weeks rather. So I'm sure we will see bigger prize pools, and this is a good time to kind of, you know, get in the groove, so to speak, to kind of remind yourself as to how to best play League of Legends DFS. I think there are a few things that I remembered as I was building my lineups last night or this morning, about stacking properly and kind of making sure that my lineup is not duped, just pure DFS, 101 stuff. But when it comes to League of Legends DFS slate, it's a little bit different because the level of correlation kind of has to click, when it comes to one of these matchups can really blow up in kills. And it's important to have four players, from those teams. You saw this morning's main GPP that, I think it was a 4-3 or 3-4 from those two winning teams. I think it was Giant X and maybe Fnatic. So, for what it's worth, the correlation rule still is in effect. So you want to make sure that you do correlate, for those, especially for LEC slates like this. I think where early in the season, I think a team by itself can really differentiate, and separate itself from other teams and other players, when it comes to scoring and the ceiling that we're looking for when it comes to that. So I'll talk a little bit more about that kill upside for each of these matchups, and I think that's tremendously important to kind of understand if that team has that kill upside / ceiling, given the matchup environment. So yeah, let's dive into tomorrow morning slate. It's Giant X versus BDS. Mad Lions. Well, Giant X BDS, it's about even, as you can see on the screen. Mad Lions and SK Gaming, it's about even as well, which I'm a little bit surprised about. And then G2 is a heavy favorite at -310 against Carmine Corp, who kind of showed up today against Fnatic this morning, but we'll see how this goes. They're going up against the two juggernauts in the LEC right away after joining the LEC, so we'll see how that goes. But they actually didn't have the poorest showing that I was afraid to maybe get out of Carmine Corp, but I think that's going to be an interesting matchup. G2 struggled a little bit early in the game, so we'll see how it goes here in the second game of the week for them. And then Fnatic looked amazing. I really like Fnatic this year. I like them more than G2, but they are a good, solid favorite over Vitality, who just did not look great with the new jungler. Not new jungler, but with the Academy jungler in Douglas. So I like Fnatic here quite a bit, but I'll dive into that more. And then this is an interesting one. I was very heavy on Rogue last night. If you watch my video, and they epically failed. But then we saw the last game this morning, Team Heretics, and they epically failed. Probably even more, bigger blunder than Rogue was. I mean, that showing was pathetic against I think it was Madrid Lions, KY. Um, but man, these two teams were probably the most disappointing teams this morning. They're they're going up against each other. So we'll see how that goes. But yeah, that Rogue bet that I had failed, but I think the other favorite bet that I had on TrueDFS website, it hit. So I'm one for two, I guess, in terms of bets record. So we'll see how it pans out for the rest of the season. So yeah, we'll see about that. All right. So what I first did today, before this video, for about an hour, is to look at all these stats from this morning. I saw, for those of you who are new to League of Legends DFS, this is the website and this is the stat database that I go to kind of analyze how each team performed and then how each player performed. There are a few key metrics that I look at. Those of you who've been following me for a while know which metrics that I typically emphasize and look at. This year is no different. I mean, I really fundamentally believe that these are the key metrics that tell me how well they have performed and how well they will likely perform based on the metrics. So CKPM is a key metric for measuring the kill upside and how fast that these teams play. CKPM means combined kills per minute. As you can see, Giant X and Vitality had the highest CKPM this morning. So you saw players from Giant X actually, be in the winning lineup this morning. And then you saw Fnatic down here. So, whose players were also in the optimal winning lineup rather. So yeah, it's one key metric that I look at, and you see Rogue down here, SK Gaming. That game was kind of more of a snooze fest. So, and what I typically look at when it comes to these, metrics, when they have the exact same metric, I typically look at who controlled the jungle, right? Who controlled the game, who controlled the pace of the game by typically controlling the jungle, which is half of the map in the game. So typically, like here, SK Gaming versus Rogue, like they were very slow overall. But then whose fault or who dictated the game to make it this slow, right? So that's kind of what I envision when I go through these metrics. And as you can see, like SK Gaming's jungler. And SK Gaming as the team dominated the control of the map over Rogue. So that is attributable to SK Gaming more so than Rogue. So that's kind of the analysis point that I kind of go through when I look at these metrics and kind of remember that maybe SK Gaming likes to play slow this season, or maybe SK Gaming is not interested in racking up kills. They are more interested in focusing on objectives, which kind of reduces the kill upside. Whereas I think Giant X, and then maybe Fnatic, like they like to get ahead in the game and snowball in the game by racking up kills rather than objectives. So those are kind of the things that I typically look at. And in this instance, on today's slate, you see Giant X versus BDS. I think Giant X versus BDS is going to be high in kills, higher kill upside. As you can see, BDS actually performed and controlled the jungle over G2 earlier in the game, like until the 15-minute, 20-minute mark. As you can see, the goal difference, 15-minute, average goal difference at 15 minutes. This is another metric called GD15 that I look at to see who had the lead in the game at the 15-minute mark. So 15-minute mark is usually a very critical point in the game where each team can get ahead or separate themselves by leveraging their lead. and securing objectives and, kind of controlling the pressure and vision around the map. That's kind of what I look at as well when it comes to looking at these metrics. You see BDS actually dominated G2, which was very surprising. And G2, actually came back late in the game and then ended up winning the game. But you now know that BDS actually has a pretty strong early game, and I think given all of that, I think it's going to be a very good game. I agree with the odds. I don't really have a lean on this, but I will have to have a lean for the sake of this video. So I'll come up with that after looking at a few more metrics. But like I said, in terms of the kill upside, I really like this matchup. I think it's gonna be high in kills. So really, I like to target these two teams for DFS purposes. Now, who do I think is going to win? I mean, at jungle, it's really a toss-up. Shio versus Peach. Peach played really well, but except he went up against Douglas and Vitality this morning, who just did not perform well. So I think his stats are really padded. As you can see, Peach, Shio here, and this is an individual player stat that I look at, and one of them, and the first position first position / role that I take a look at when it comes to comparing these metrics is the jungle position. So because I really do think junglers make a huge difference. They have the biggest impact on on the map itself, but also for his teammates, right? So I look at the jungler's performance as one of the key indicators to kind of evaluate the chance of winning, and then chance of controlling the map and controlling the vision around the map to help his teammates to be able to gain the lead and win the game. Hopefully, moving forward in that game. So as you can see, Peach versus Shio is an interesting one. And one key metric that I look at when it comes to comparing player stats is EGPM. I kind of briefly touched on it yesterday, but EGPM stands for earned gold per minute on average. It's basically how much gold that each of these players, have earned comparatively. And it is the indicator that this player or this jungler, had this much more gold compared to other junglers in that same position, which kind of tells me that how well they performed, in terms of securing not only objectives but also the resources, including gold around the map for his team and also for his teammates. So here you see Peaches is up above Shio, but at the same time, like I said, he played against Vitality's jungler and Douglas, who's down here. So I'm not sure if that's a good representation. Shio went up against Yike. Like Yike is a good jungler, so I think that was pretty impressive as well. So I don't really have a good, I guess, valid point in comparing this EGPM metric here, just given the context. And that's why, like, I think it's important to also watch the game, but just, compare the metrics objectively, but also kind of keep in mind as to what I've seen out of the junglers and out of the context or the matchup context that these players played in. Here you also see goal difference at 10 minutes and experience difference at 10 minutes. And those are also the two, key indicators that I look at as well. So you see Peaches is actually up really high, and 666 is very high. That's how much he exerted his dominance over Douglas, in that matchup this morning, and it's quite impressive actually. And then Shio is minus 27 compared to Yike, who played against each other this morning. And then kill participation and kill share, that's kind of what I look at when I'm trying to prioritize certain players in a stack that I have already chosen with good kill upside. So that's a long way of saying I don't really have a good lean. Let me think about this for a second. Giant X versus BDX. Let me look at the players. Shio Peach. Adam played pretty well this morning against Broken Blade. Odoamne was okay. Jackie's. Oh, let's look at Jackie's. I think I pointed this out yesterday. Jackie's is probably the biggest question mark coming into the LEC. For me, at least, I don't really know much about that player, and I wanted to go check out his stats comparatively. Down here, okay, 5-5. He finished 5-5 and 10. Kill participation 62.5. That's pretty good. Kill share 20%. It's pretty good. Let's see how he did in terms of the in-game metrics. 273, kind of toward the bottom of the pack of amongst the mid laners. You see 124 plus goal difference, 220 plus XPD at 10 minutes. So yeah, pretty positive actually. And who do they go up against? The Vitality, who Betheo actually, let me see how he did. Yeah, I mean, it's going to be comparative, so it's going to be the exact same, but the opposite in the negative. But EGPM is an interesting one where he still dominated over Jackie's. So I think this may have been padded by the fact that his teammates played pretty well. Yeah, I think that's an interesting one. Really, I think he's kind of in the middle of the pack, and he's going up against BDS Nuke, who did not perform well, I guess. Look at this stats. That's kind of bad, actually. But then he went up against G2's Caps, who's a really good mid laner. Yeah, that doesn't really tell me anything either. I think Jackie's is an interesting one. Ice actually performed pretty well. He was very conservative though, which I think backfired against BDS later in the game. I think he'll get used to it more. Patrick was interesting. I think I liked him quite a bit. I think I'm gonna go. It's an interesting one. I don't really have it lean. Maybe I'll decide. It's based on the eye test. You know what? I'm gonna go Peach. I'm gonna go Giant X. I think Giant X is gonna win this game. That's what I'm gonna go with. Yeah. So that's my lean. I think Giant X is gonna win this matchup, and I think, like I said, the kill upside is good enough to not only play Giant X, but I think BDS is definitely playable, given the high kill upside matchup environment. So I will highlight those two teams as my top two plays, I think, in my write-up that will be posted shortly after this video. Yeah, and then let's dive into the other four. And I kind of went into the key metrics and all that here, just now. So I won't go into the details on that for the other matchups. So if you guys have any questions on that, let me know. And I already went through all the roster changes and all that in the video from yesterday. So please feel free to go check it out if you want to hear my thoughts on any roster updates or changes during the offseason. All right, next matchup is MDK versus SK. That's an interesting one, only because, let's see, where is my notes? Okay, this is the matchup to avoid. That's the notes that I have in my notes. Only because I think just looking at all the metrics, CKPM, and then the eye test, when I watched SK Gaming this morning. And then I think the fact that Mad Lions still had a low CKPM, especially given how dominant they looked over Team Heretics this morning. I think that tells me that Mad Lions, KOI, and SK Gaming like to play slow. Both teams, like I said, won today, won this morning, but also dominated and controlled the map. But still, they finish really low in kills and kind of slower kill pace for their respective matches this morning. So I like this to go under, way under I think it is set at 26.5 over under kills total. So I'll go under that. And as a result, this is the matchup that I will probably most likely avoid either team or both teams rather, MDK and SK. So for DFS purposes, that's what I'm doing. I'm fading the whole matchup. But on the lean as to who is going to win, this is also a very interesting one. After looking at the stats, like El Yoya versus was it Isma? Yeah, Isma. Isma actually proved me very, very, very much wrong this morning. I think he looked fabulous this morning. He, going into the video yesterday, I thought he would be one of the most, one of the bottom tier junglers coming into the LEC and so forth, but he actually looked really, really good. Early game, he controlled the jungle and he had a lot more active involvement when he came to help his teammates around the map. That's kind of what you really need, like especially in this meta. I mean, he was very active, much more active than Marcoon was this morning. So I really liked Isma quite a bit, and I think El Yoya, that game against Team Heretics, I think Mad Lions really just could not lose that game. I mean, they really snowballed. They looked impressive, and only because I think Heretics looked really, really bad. I think Rogue, on the other hand, who played against SK Gaming, looked okay. I think Larson played like shit in the mid lane, but everybody else played okay. I think Rogue almost came back earlier in the game, but I think Isma's ultimate presence around the map and pressure around the map really secured that win for SK Gaming. That's my opinion. And as a result, I like Isma quite a bit, and I like that team better than Mad Lions. I think overall, if that makes sense. I like the team synergy and chemistry more watching both of the teams here this morning. I think Mad Lions really was set up for success by um, contrasting, bad form and bad chemistry that was shown by Team Heretics. I think SK Gaming's win over Rogue was more impressive. I guess that's what I'm trying to say. So for that, I'm gonna go with SK Gaming to win. That's kind of what I'm gonna go with. I think both of these first two matchups is a toss-up, I think. But like I said, I'm gonna go with GX in the first matchup, and then I'm gonna go with SK Gaming in the second matchup. So that I think was SK the underdog technically, yes. So I'm picking the underdog in SK, and then Giant X in the first matchup. So we'll see how that goes. Hopefully they both win. All right. The next matchup is G2 versus Carmine Corp. This one, projects very well in terms of kill upside. I think it's gonna be a kill fest. I think I said it yesterday on yesterday's video. Carmine Corp games and matches will be high in kills generally. Carmine Corp loves to fight, and that showed earlier this morning against Fnatic. G2 loves to team fight as well. G2 and BDS this morning had I think like 10 kills within like 10 minutes total. So I like G2's tendency to to scrim and then FKC as well. So I think it's gonna be higher in kill upside. So that's gonna be an interesting one, I think. But in terms of the winner, picking the winner, I mean, I'm gonna have to go with G2. You saw the metrics as well as the fact that they were able to come back late in the game. Like that was really impressive. I know G2 had a kind of a slow start against BDS, who just came out firing, but then I think it was more of a team composition, and also based on the champions that they had chosen for BDS. BDS chose a lot of the early game team fighting champions who had to gain early game advantage by skirmishing and all that. G2, whereas, I think G2 picked a lot of the champions that scaled later in the game, which they really did a good job of. I know Broken Blade struggled quite a bit against Adam in the top lane, but he showed up later in the game and dominated. If you watched that game this morning, um, for that, I mean, I think G2 has basically all the arsenal like that they need to be able to pull off a win, and they have more avenues to be able to pull off a win. They can dominate early game, they can dominate in the late game. They really can win in a variety of ways, and I think that will favor them quite a bit uh, versus the Carmine Corp, who probably has to have a similar game plan coming into this game against Juggernaut in G2. I like G2 to win as a result, but I do think it's going to be a higher in kill upside. So that naturally makes Carmine Corp another good GPP play. I mentioned that yesterday going into the Fnatic matchup between Fnatic and Carmine Corp. I think the same applies here. I think it naturally, just given the high kill context and projection for that matchup, Carmine Corp, becomes a pretty good GPP play as well if they show up against G2, just from a DFS, League of Legends DFS strategy standpoint, right? So I think in the ultimate big GPP, I think KC is definitely in play if you are looking into playing in one of those. So, but in terms of the winner, picking the winner, I'm gonna have to go with G2. And then the next two matchups, I have a pretty good feeling as to who's gonna win. Fnatic's gonna win this. Period. I am pretty confident, and that's why Fnatic at minus 230, 225. Book it. That's one of my favorite bets of this slate. That's what I'm gonna go with. So Fnatic minus 225 is one of my favorite plays bets of the slate. But I mean, and the reason is Vitality look really bad, especially their jungler. Like I said, Douglas played horribly, and I watched them. I watched them last season before Bo played for Vitality and had some visa issues and all that. So Douglas played last year, and he looked okay last year. But then now, when he went up against the Giant X, yeah, Peach. I mean, Peach is not the best jungler in the LEC. I know he had a better performance toward the latter part of the season last year, but the way that Douglas folded against Peach, who is not the best jungler, who is not one of the best junglers in the LEC, I think that tells me a lot about Douglas's prospect this season. And the fact that he's going up against who I think was one of the best junglers this morning in Resork, fending off Bo this morning in that matchup. Resork was very, very, very impressive to me, and that's why I have Fnatic actually better than G2 right now to win the LEC in this region. So for that, and then for the rest of the teammates, I think Fnatic's talent level is higher generally over Vitality in every single lane. So I'm gonna go with Fnatic in this matchup, and I think this is also a very good kill upside matchup that I would love to target. So Fnatic is one of my top favorite plays, not only for the bet part of it, but also for DFS purposes. And I think Fnatic is going to be in the winning lineup again tomorrow after the slate's over. And the last matchup is between Team Heretics versus Rogue. Rogue, like I said, both very disappointing. Rogue was disappointing, but then Heretics was really disappointing. But at the end of the day, I think Team Heretics will bounce back. This is my opinion. I think the fact that they just had a very poor mistake early in the game against Madrid Lions KOI really threw them off. I was just not impressed with Marcoon for Rogue. He just had like 2 or 3 instances where he could bounce back, but he was very hesitant based on my eye test when he tried to help his teammates. And I think there were a few times I think the other team was targeting Larson, the mid lane, and Markun was always late. Like he was always late. He was looking over the mid lane. I think he was looking over the other lanes, but he was just busy kind of securing, the XP and the gold, that was in his jungle. He just did not have a good sense of, where he should have been in terms of the game strategy. And I think Yanko's had that. Like Yanko showed me this morning that he just had some bad mistakes that worked in their did not work in their favor. And they kind of snowballed from there. So I like Team Heretics to win here this tomorrow morning over Rogue. Rogue just did not impress me all around. Larson just not. I think he's just gonna have a hard time against Perks. And neither of the bot lanes really impressed me. I know he is like a prodigy that came in to Rogue, but I did not see any synergy in that bottom lane. So I like Team Heretics to win in this matchup, and I think this one is also in terms of kill upside. Oh, this is lower in kill upside. That's what I have. I think the Vegas total kills over under is set at 27.5, but I have it under for that matchup. And I think for Team Heretics, I think just given, I'm not gonna say it's an old team or team with older players. And I think they're very experienced, like they're veterans. And is that why they're gonna just kind of focus on more on objectives and so on and not get a lot of kills? It's one of the theories that I have, that's being tested out right now for Team Heretics games. But the fact that Rogue played really slow this morning as well, I think this is gonna go under. And similar to the MDK versus SK matchup, I think this is one of the matchups to fade or avoid in terms of kill upside. So that's what I have for you guys there. And I think I covered everything. I know this was a little over 30 minutes, I believe. Let's see. Yeah. So I hope you guys enjoy the video. If you guys have any questions, please let me know. Yeah, please let me know if you guys have any questions. Otherwise, reach out to me at DFS Chan on TrueDFS Discord. Like I said, I'll be posting an article shortly after this, which will have my predictions and top stacks and plays and favorite bets all around, all the good stuff. So hope you guys have a good night, and hope you guys, if you guys watch this video in the morning of the day on the day of, hope you enjoy it. Good luck out there. Yeah.